Everyone, my name is Jonathan Kloostra, and I did a lab-based study for the analysis for the presence of cocaine and tetrahydrocannibinol on paper currency with my mentor as Dr. Nguyen. Start out, cannabis tends to lower motor skills. This has been found through many studies. It inhibits your reactionary skills when it comes to operating things such as vehicles, heavy machinery, or other types of machines in general, while cocaine has been shown to improve reactions and motor skills slightly up into a certain point. In 2006, it was estimated that 166 million people, or 3 to 9% of the world population, were constant marijuana users, while in 2015, there was an estimated 0.35% of the world population that regularly used cocaine. So why research drugs on cash? Well, high amounts of drugs on cash tend to have a strong correlation to drug trafficking in certain areas. This higher percentage of bills that are contaminated also correlate to higher instances of crime in these other geographical locations as well. Start out finding a method for swabbing. First, acetaminophen and aspirin were chosen as the base analytes to find the best method for swabbing. These findings would then be used as the basis for the analysis of THC and cocaine on paper currency. The swabbing technique is as follows. Step one was to put 0.1 grams of analyte on each paper separately. Then it was shaken off to mimic the handling of drugs before handling the cash. Then a swab was dipped in a solution of either methanol, ethanol, isopropyl alcohol, or deionized water, as well as a dry swab. This swab was then used to swab the piece of paper that had either analyte on it, and then this swab was dipped into 0.5 milliliters of methanol, which was then diluted by a factor of 10 with methanol. For Hplc analysis, 1 milliliter of those solutions was put into the Hplc vial for analysis, and the analysis was done with the following gradient for both acetaminophen and aspirin, which is seen in the table there, with A being 0.1% formic acid and H2O, and B, which was 100% acetonitrile. This had a flow rate of 0.5 milliliters per minute. The findings for acetaminophen and aspirin testing. From testing, it was found that ethanol was the best solvent for swabbing. It is shown in both bar graphs down there between aspirin and acetaminophen. You can see that dry tended to leave or recover the least amount, while ethanol recovered the most amount, and methanol and isopropyl alcohol and water were all about average with each other. For the next step, acetaminophen and aspirin were both sprinkled onto cash in the same 0.1 gram amount. This was then swabbed using only ethanol on the left and the right side of the bill. As you can see down there, that both those bar graphs show the recovered amount of ethanol, just to prove that it did in fact work. Next up was the collection of paper's currency for sampling. First up, 10 ones, 5s, 10s, and $20 bills were collected in total from Marathon Gas Station, Austin Cigar Lounge, and the local Walmart in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. These cash samples were then sampled the same exact way as the acetaminophen and aspirin, where the swab was dipped in ethanol. The paper currency was then swabbed with the ethanol swab. The swab was then dipped into the 0.5 milliliters of methanol and then diluted by a factor of 10 with more methanol before testing. 2 bills were also contaminated with THC and cocaine separately. testing requirements for both Hplc and Lcms. On the left, you will see the Hplc gradient that was found, with A being percentage of water with 0.1% formic acid, and B being the percentage of 0.05% formic acid and methanol. This had a flow rate of 1 milliliter per minute, while in the right table, this was a gradient that was found from an adjuvant application for illicit drugs. It follows as A being percentage of 0.1% formic acid in water, and B being 0.1% formic acid in acetonitrile. This had a flow rate of 0.5 milliliters per minute. For the results, Hplc analysis for the cocaine and THC samples showed non-detectable levels of both analytes. So that was why Lcms-MS was included as another form of analysis, because it has a lower level of detection. This analysis via Lcms-MS showed non-detectable levels for THC. Below, you will see a standard curve graph and a bar graph for the cocaine that was found. It is important to note that the standard curve, 2 points were taken out of the standard curve to ensure that the line was more linear, so that the amounts of cocaine could actually be calculated due to them having higher peak areas that were found. And so on the right, you will see that those are all implied calculations of cocaine, and all the bills below that have a G with them refer to the samples collected from the gas station, as well as the cocaine bill, the spike sample. So it was found that ethanol was the best solvent to use for both acetaminophen and aspirin, but this ended up not showing any detectable levels of THC, including the spike sample for both Hplc and Lcms. Cocaine was in fact found though, using Lcms-MS, using a modified standard curve. But all bills were of low value that were contaminated between the 1s and the 5s from the gas station. So methodologies were found for all analytes for analysis, which this can be used for further studies. This includes both the Hplc and Lcms-MS. With no THC found and minimal amounts of cocaine found, it would be of value to continue this research. Due to that, we had to modify the standard curve in order to find the cocaine. So improvements on standard curve dilutions would also be very valuable. And it would also be of value to research the correlation between low value cash and illicit drug contamination. Thank you.